Hello everyone, welcome to Studio 701. This is a new segment called Music with Michael. My name is Michael Cartwright, and here I have a very special first guest for this episode. Sitting to my right is Mr. Jim E. Anderson.
Michael?
We are in his basement in his home in Mandan, North Dakota. So Jim, thank you so much for having us in here today.
Thank you very much, Michael. I enjoy being here with you. Anytime being with you is a pleasure.
I love that. Jim and I are good friends. Outside of the camera, we've played music quite a lot together here in North Dakota. So Jim, I want everybody to get to know you. We're in your music layer here. You have lots of instruments in here. Tell us who you are as a musician, please.
I'm primarily a drummer, not a percussionist. A real drum set drummer. Mm-hmm. I do like percussion, and I do play a little bit of Afro-Cuban percussion, but drum set is my main thing. Mm-hmm. And I teach, and I love teaching. I also sing, I play guitar, play a little bit of piano. But as I said, drumming is my main thing.
Drumming and drum set. So you're the guy behind the drum set, not necessarily the guy out there with the congas and such like that.
I'm the motor.
Yes, you are the motor.
Drum set player is the motor of the band. Along with the bass player, we keep the train moving down the track.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the way I feel about it. I've been playing since probably the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. I played all through high school, and in high school I played in concert band, jazz band, pep band. I sang in choir. In other words, anything that was a musical class that I could get into, I did. My senior year at high school, we had a new band director, Mr. Lyle Cruz, and Lyle went on to a junior college in Santa Cruz County in Aptos called Cabrillo College. And that summer, and I graduated in '69, the summer of '69, Mr. Cruz called my mom and said, "Evelyn, I'm putting a big band together down in Santa Cruz County in Aptos, and I'm going to be teaching down here. You think Jimmy would want to come to junior college down in Santa Cruz?" And my mom said, "Yeah, by the time I hang up the phone, he'll probably have his suitcase packed. As soon as I tell him, he'll want to come," which I did.
Yeah.
And I participated in that big band, which was an award-winning big band. But bottom line is, I've been playing big band music since I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Had several bands in Santa Cruz, and then I really got a desire to, and I think this maybe comes from being from a small town, I really wanted to go out and see the country, and I knew that music would be one way for me to do that. So I really wanted to find a touring situation, a band that I could join and do some touring. And one night at this place that we played in Santa Cruz all the time, I was with a buddy of mine who's a bass player, and his roommate happened to be the road manager for the Pointer Sisters. And I didn't know this at the time, but we were hanging out, and my friend Max says, "Hey, Bill, are you going to stick around for another set?" And Bill goes, "No, I got to go back to San Francisco because we have auditions starting Monday morning for the Pointer Sisters." He goes, we need to get a rhythm section together for the girls." And I went, "Hello?"
Yeah.
I said, "What are you looking for?" He goes, "Well, we need a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, how do I get an audition?" And Bill took out his card and handed it to me. Uh-huh. The rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. How old were you at that time?
I was probably 24, 23, 24, something like that.
And were the Pointer Sisters living legends at that time, or what was going on with that situation?
In the Greater Bay Area, they certainly were.
Yeah.
They had already done some pretty amazing things. Now, I toured with them while they were still on San Francisco Records before they signed with Arista and had all their big hits. But back then, when I joined them, they were still doing mostly big band-oriented stuff. So they were doing girl vocal kind of classic stuff. So we did Chattanooga Choo Choo and all those kinds of things. With
old big band
old
stuff.
big band stuff with their arrangements. To say they were good is obviously an understatement. They were a really, really talented bunch of people. And I learned so much from them, and I learned so much from the musical director. So to get this interview, or this audition, I called Bill up, and Bill gave me a date and a time. I went, cool. I went out and bought all their records, and I literally hand transcribed every single song off of every single record, so that I'd have my own set of charts that I could listen to and play to and refer to. And there was this rumor that this musical director was a real hard butt. He was really hard on people. And you're going to hate this guy, Tom Salisbury. He's just he's really a slave driver, just a really hard on the band. And I'm going, well, he might be hard on you guys, but I'm a dumb little rookie from a small town. I probably can learn something from him. So I got there early, of course.
Yeah.
Set up, had my charts and everything. Tom walked in the door and he goes, "Are those your charts?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh." He goes, "Okay." I said, "Mr. Salisbury," I said, "this is how this is going to work. You're going to tell me what you want, how fast you want it, what feel you want it, and when you want it, and I'm going to do my best to give it to you." And he goes, "You and I are going to get along just fine." I ended up rooming with this guy on the road. He taught me so much about how the music business works in a show like this, because this was a show. The girls had costume changes, they had overtures. Almost everything we did was a medley, 2 or 3 songs in a row. And I was not used to that. It was all brand new to me. And Tom just kind of took me under his wing. And God bless her, Ruth Pointer took me under her wing also and just kind of settled me down, because I'd get really nervous. And she'd go, "Just settle down, you're doing fine. You did fine in rehearsal, just relax. It'll be fine."
That's amazing. I can't believe that, who was going to be the villain jumping into this actually ended up being your greatest ally.
Yeah, he really was a great ally. And that was the first tour. And then the second tour that I did with them was a little bit more involved. And we picked up this guitar player named Wah Wah Watson.
Right on.
The Wah Wah Watson. And only much later in life did I realize, those funky sounds that you hear on all those really big Marvin Gaye hits? That's Wah Wah.
Yeah.
Never changed a string. He would get really depressed if one of his dead strings broke on his guitar, because he was a rhythm player with the wah wah. That's what he did. It kind of fulfilled a big goal in my life. Here I am touring. I'm playing big places, Cobo Hall, doing TV with Pierre Cossette for the Super Bowl, where I met Joe Namath and this guy named O.J. Simpson. And just had some really great experiences traveling all over the country. And at this point, the Pointers were, fly in a jet, get in a limo.
Yeah.
So the band was in a limo. We were all in the jet together. It was the first time I ever had a roadie.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing for a drummer.
Yeah, somebody to actually move your equipment for you.
Yeah, that was really a good experience. So I was pretty much at the top of my game. I thought it was just great. And then just like that, they decided to take a break, kind of regroup. They signed with Arista, management changed, everything changed. I was kind of left, to fend for myself.
So you've had about a 50-year professional musician career. How did you end up here in North Dakota?
Yeah, that's a good story. I was in the Bay Area, obviously, when I was touring with the other people that I toured with, and there's several others. But I moved back home after my first marriage basically failed, and I had 2 teenage kids. And I moved back home to Sonora, which is in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, about an hour roughly from Yosemite National Park. And I went back to work at my company, my family's business. We had a True Value hardware store there, and we were actually in business for 50 years in Sonora with a hardware store. And I went back and ended up working there for a while. And that's where I met my current wife, my sweetie Alice, who has 2 daughters. Long story forward. The youngest graduated from high school in '07. So she ended up with this boyfriend on her summer year. And he got a full ride scholarship to University of Mary to play football. He's a big dude. And so she followed him out here. And almost after she moved here, she started calling us going, "You guys got to move out here. You'd really like it." We're going, "Okay, let's just wait for winter. Let's see if she can make it through a winter." Because we told her, you got to go to school for a whole year in North Dakota if you go out there. Phone calls kept coming. Meanwhile, my family sold the business. My brother moves out of state. So I've got no family in Northern California anymore. It's just me and Alice. Her folks are getting older, and they're, we realize we're not going to have family in Northern California. Because my son's in the Bay Area, my oldest daughter is in Hawaii. And so we decided, okay, let's go out there and see what's going on. And then Lindsay said these words. She said, "I will take care of you in your old age." And I went, "We're going to North Dakota." And then she had Leo, and it was game over.
Yeah.
Plus, she married Chris. She married Chris Satinen into this. She married into the Satinen family of Mandan, which is just they're just great people.
Yeah.
They're just solid North Dakota people.
So, Jim, I have 4 big questions for you here. First one, can you tell me about a tragedy turned to triumph in relation to your life in music?
I don't know if the Pointer Sisters story is so much of a tragedy, because I did learn a lot, but having that tour or that situation go away was a big challenge for me. I mean, I was pretty upset. I was like, okay, I worked really hard to get here. I was thinking I was gonna, do this for 5 years and then do something else, right? And that's not how it works, as I came to find out. So I was pretty devastated when that kind of went away, and I realized immediately, okay, you need to keep the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. Because I got a taste of it, and I really did like traveling and seeing different places and playing music and meeting people and so forth. So I don't know if it's necessarily a tragedy, but it was very upsetting at the time.
Yeah.
And I decided to, try to look for another gig. And that's when I met Maria Muldaur, and I started playing with Maria. With the Pointer Sisters, it was a show. Mm-hmm. With Maria, you were a member of like a community organization, a family, and you all kind of helped each other and you all learned from each other. And that, I was pretty young at the time, and she knew so many people. I mean, it's just stunning. I look back on the number of encounters I had with her friends and how positive all those encounters were. And I realized that my musical knowledge, my musical appreciation, everything just leapfrogged from being with Maria. Learned how to play Americana kind of stuff, played gospel music with her.
Yeah.
I never dreamed that I'd be playing gospel music on stage, but Maria can pull it off. There's not a whole lot she can't sing. The girl can sing.
Yeah.
And still to this day, she's just a beautiful soul, just a beautiful spirit. And so to be around that was really fun. I was married at the time, and my wife would actually babysit Jenny, Maria's daughter. When we were out on the road, she would hang out with Jenny.
Well, I know all the musicians that I know, their life has definitely moved in chapters. It's rare that someone is a Mick Jagger who's been doing their same thing since day one.
Yeah.
Most of us musicians are out there in different chapters and completely different face and different masks that we have to wear as we move on.
Yeah. So again, a total blessing. Just somehow I was in the right place at the right time, and our personalities clicked. And she took me in, and it was just like, she's like a big sister almost to me. I just love her dearly to this day. She gave me a lot of opportunities that I'm still very grateful for. So, awesome.
Next question, and this I think is the hardest one. You're stuck on a deserted island. It's just you and your record player, and you can choose 3 albums. What are your 3 albums?
First of all, I love the idea of being on a deserted island with a record player.
Yeah, that's all you have.
I'm good to go. All right, so Meet the Beatles. I would not be here without Ringo Starr. Period. Without the Beatles, I wouldn't be here. They are inspiring. They still are. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? Probably one of the most underrated drummers in rock and roll, Ringo Starr. Number 2, the Hot Fives and Hot Sevens, Louis Armstrong. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the essential Louis Armstrong. Anything Louis is my guy.
Yeah.
His phrasing, his singing, his entertaining is just flawless. I love him to death. I will always love Louis. Mm-hmm. 3rd, the Ode to Joy, Beethoven Symphony No. 9. has been an inspiration to me since I was a child. One of the reasons I'm playing music is because of my mother, who listened to a lot of classical music. And I remember the first time I heard the Ninth. I cried. I still do.
Yeah.
It's a moving piece of music that I think was a direct gift from God to Ludwig. Just an amazing piece of music. Okay, now there's one more bonus.
Okay, bonus. We'll allow it. Let's do it.
Okay, Nessun Dorma,
Nessun Dorma. Oh, the Italian
aria,
yes, yeah.
Pavarotti.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, every time I see that guy sing that song on a giant stage with a full orchestra and a full chorus behind him in a giant setting, no microphone, and his voice fills the entire area. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
And it makes me cry.
The power of that type of music, it's real. When you are there and you are hearing it with the orchestra, like you said, and everything, it's you feel the vibrations, you know.
And I think that's the reason that I like all the people that I mentioned. The emotional content that music is able to convey is, to me, a really powerful indication of just how wonderful music is to the human race. It's an important facet of our being, music. And to be able to convey that kind of emotion, you know, whether it's a pop music by the Beatles or whether it's Ode to Joy by Ludwig van Beethoven.
Yeah.
Those are emotional things that are transmitted to another human being. That's a gift. That's a really cool thing. I really appreciate that.
Great picks. I'd hang out on your island with you for a little while.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next question. So we all know the great guitarist B.B. King, the late B.B. King. He had a guitar who he called Lucille, which is where Lucille gave him his sound and his feel. Do you have a Lucille or a piece of equipment that really shapes who you are as a musician?
I have to say that I do, and it's the first snare drum that I've ever owned. I've had it since I was in the 5th grade. It's a Slingerland Radio King, but what makes it unique is it's only 13 inches. It's not a standard size drum. It's a bitty guy. My mom bought it with the rest of the drum set, and we won't talk about the rest of the drum set, but I still have the snare drum.
Yeah.
And when I got it, it had calf heads on it. So
calf heads, can you explain what that is?
Yes. Yeah. So back in the day, before Evans and Remo, these are companies that make drum heads, made thin filmed plastic drum heads. All the drummers toured all over the world. Any drummer that was playing, like in the big band era from the 20s, 30s, and 40s mostly, used calf-skinned heads. So they're actually calf skin that's stretched over a wire hoop that's put on the drum. The good news is they have a really cool sound that is next to impossible to replicate with plastic. The bad news is they constantly need tuning because they're a natural film or a fiber that is affected by the moisture in the air. So if it's wet, they detune. If it's hot and they dry out, they come up a lot in pitch. But there's nothing like a calfskin head, especially if you're playing brushes. They're a pretty phenomenal sounding thing. So when I got this drum, all the drums had calfskin heads. So living in Sonora, where we would get rain and snow, it would get pretty moist. So I'd go out to my room to practice, and the drum would be. So I would literally take it over to a heater, sit it in front of the heater for 2 or 3 minutes, and tap it. Oh, okay, we're good. And I'd play for a while until it detuned, and I'd go back to the heater. So I still have that drum.
That's amazing.
And I think because of the fact that it was, and I believe this drum was late 40s, early 50s, happened to have calfskin heads on it, that drum kind of informed my whole sense of jazz and therefore swing. And that's another thing I feel really blessed about, is I feel like my swing feel is pretty decent, and that it informs a lot of my music. And I think it goes all the way back to that little snare drum and learning how to play that little snare drum in my garage.
I didn't even know they made them with calfskin heads.
Calfskin
it makes
heads.
sense now thinking about it, but
they didn't have plastic factories to make
that's right.
plastic heads, so that's what they did.
That's right.
Yeah.
Watch out, cows.
Yes.
All right, last question. So a magnum opus is a term which stands for someone's greatest work or greatest achievement. Do you have a magnum opus in your music career?
Yes, and it's not a recorded piece of music, or it's not a song I wrote, or it's not any of the accomplishments I've made touring, or any of the fantastic musicians and friends I've made through music. I'd have to say it's my teaching. I get such satisfaction out of teaching, and I wish I'd have realized this so much earlier. When I was touring and I was young, it wasn't cool to be a teacher. You know, you're not good enough to be out here on the road with us cool guys touring and making music and playing concerts if you're stuck in a classroom teaching students, right? That was kind of the thinking back then. And I wish I'd have been able to have a more open mind and discard that thinking and realize that teaching is vastly important. Because if you look, almost to a man, any professional sideman, now this is a sideman, not an artist that's signed to a label, but drummers who are sidemen to bands that tour maybe with 2 or 3, international bands. To a man, they all teach. They all have their own books that they've written. They've all done their own videos. They all participate in online Zoom style, teaching. You can't make a living now unless you do that as a musician. So I just wish I'd have started earlier so I could have enjoyed this a little bit longer, but I'm going on 25 years of teaching.
Wow. Yeah.
And I really still enjoy when I can share what I've learned and what I know and share it with another student, be it a small person on a drum set or an adult who wants to play in their worship band, for example. When I see the light bulb go off in somebody's eyes and they get it and I can hear that they get it, that's a satisfaction that's pretty rare. You got to be in a big concert situation, 10, 12, 15,000 plus with a roar of applause to kind of match seeing the light bulb go off in somebody's eyes when they get it. It's like, okay, I just did what I'm put here to do.
Yeah.
I shared my information. I shared my skills and my knowledge with somebody else, and they got it.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing.
Makes you immortal, sounds like it.
I don't know about that, but it's really cool. It's really satisfying, and it's a blessing that I figured that out and I'm able to do it,
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what I'm really most proud of.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for
bet.
making the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, musician, drummer, Jim E. Anderson.